Congratulations, everybody. You are all officially 3/4 done learning the content for your AP exam. And here's some more good news. The final portion of this class, 1900 to the present, should be the easiest portion because number one, you've already learned a lot about these historical events in your U.S. history class. And number two, whenever you're listening to this, you are in the present. So you have a few years under your belt where you have firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience of the history that's happened. And the way we're going to start this off is a project that I think is really interesting. I hope you feel the same way. But what are the 10 most significant historical turning points of the 20th century? And I'm fully aware this is a monster question. That is a really tough question. So initially, I want you to think, what criteria are you going to base your decision off of? Now, instruction one, okay? As you are thinking of your criteria and your head is swimming with possibilities of the events you're going to choose, this is, again, really frustrating. You're not going to collaborate right out of the gates or debate with your classmates yet. I assure you that we will, big time toward the end. But the reason I'm having you do this, I really want you to explore with your own thinking, okay? Really turn inward and evaluate what criteria constitutes importance and gravitas to a historical event. Now, a reminder, a historical turning point is an event that puts the human story on a totally different trajectory. In other words, if this didn't happen, the world would be a completely different place. Or because this happened, the world will never be the same. That kind of thing, okay? And initially you're saying, oh my goodness, I have inventions to choose from, wars, revolutions, cultural shifts, economic events, geopolitical movements and organizations. There are a lot of possibilities, okay? So that's instruction number one. Now, instruction number two, keep your scale on a world level, not a national or personal level. Now, what I mean by this, it's a historical turning point for the world. It's something that affected the whole world. I have had individuals when I've asked this question and they make everything first person singular. It's all about me, I, me, myself, and I. Great song by De La Soul. I know that's an old song. It's still a great song. Don't believe me? Check it out on YouTube. But if you're making everything about yourself, you're failing to see the broader scale. There is a time and a place for personal history. This is not the time. This is not the place. Your scale affects the world. The world level is important, not your personal level. Hope you get that. That's a big point of emphasis. Okay, instruction number three, double check your choices and check the largest historical turning points and which one had the most gravitas upon our present situation today. Again, geopolitical, economic, cultural, military in nature. I'd be cognizant of the fact that only looking through one lens fails to present the historical gestalt, meaning the big picture. And I'm throwing some fancy SAT words in there just to get you ready for your SAT next year. Now, what I mean by this is that if I only put 10 wars, am I neglecting all the other big turning points that happened economically, like the Great Depression, or in terms of revolution, like the Russian Revolution, or the geopolitical aspects like the formation of NATO, this kind of thing. So I think it's myopic if you pick 10 all from the same lens. I think a good historian would have multiple lenses, and I hope you get this. I know it's a hard concept for some, but I think we all can hang with this. Have your list be through multiple lenses. Instruction number three. Instruction number four. Once you have brainstormed, once you have narrowed down your list, put them in order from 1 being the most important to 10 being the 10th most important. I'm not going to say least important. Okay? Now, this PowerPoint's on Google Classroom, and you can use this to use as a template. So what you'd have is your picture. That's me. Change your own picture and give me your concise list. Okay? Once you have figured it out. And then you can go down the line. Okay, 1, you're going to include a visual, your rationale to why you picked it. Number 2, same thing. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That sounded like Sesame Street. Okay, so part 4 is kind of the nuts and bolts of it. It's the biggest portion of it, where you have picked it, you have provided a visual, and you have given a rationale. And at this point, you are realizing this is not a minor project, this is a major project. But I think it warrants a major project. So anyhow, it brings me to instruction number 5. At this point, all your submissions will be sent to me, okay, before we present as individuals. And why I'm doing this, I don't want groupthink to occur, because groupthink is when people copy each other and, they don't. Here, I like this one here. You're seeking approval instead of taking risks. It makes people conform. I don't want you to conform. I want you to defend your position. Now, when the people are presenting these to the class, holy smokes, this is the time we argue. This is the time we debate. This is the time we attempt to question the individual and their rationale and make them reconsider and have them defend their position. So we're going from a very kind of introspective sort of vibe to a very argumentative kind of vibe. So we're going to shift gears here, okay? But again, please send it to me, okay, because I want you to think for yourself. Okay, final outcome. The final part of this very elaborate project is we will create a class top 10 list that we will all agree upon. And at this point, I will share with you my top 10, and we will compare your top 10 with my top 10 and see what we think. And hopefully this is a really good perusal of the 20th and just the 20th century. We'll talk about the 21st century after this, but a couple final points of emphasis. Number 1, if your list seems arbitrary without any critical thought, it's going to be really evident, okay? And I'm going to grade you accordingly. Obviously, I'm going to be watching you all these days you're working on it, so I'll be able to tell. If your list has been investigated well, you've really thought about it, that's going to be evident and will be graded accordingly. If I'm seeing you think for yourself, if I'm watching you act like a historian, you're all well and good, you'll get an A, happy. But if you randomly throw 10 events there and just give a weak explanation or not explaining your rationale, it's a different story. Final suggestion. I would strongly recommend that you use pages 524 and 525 as a good visual to create your list. So anyway, this is the project. I hope it's a positive experience. I think it will be. And really, you are walking in the shoes of historians. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with, okay? And that's all I have to say, and I appreciate you watching.